Happy Monday, everybody. Okay, first things first. I am very happy about the response to the book club. I now have 11 people signed up. I know the first reading was yesterday, and there'll be one every day. You will get the questions within the next like 2 or 3 days. If anybody else wants to participate, please call me today, Monday, so I have enough copies of things for people. But I am happy about that. Someone did call and say that when they were listening to me read, it was a good nap. So even if you just watch it for that, it's good. Okay, this week, what do we have? We have the book club. Tomorrow we have La Traviata and Green Book, the movie, plus the Green Book Guide. It's a documentary about the Green Book. Wednesday we have the Anne on Broadway, which is the play about Ann Richards. Thursday we have jazz. We have Elizabeth Calphion, who you will recognize. She's come here before. I don't know what the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical is, but I got a lot of people telling me they like Peter Pan, so that was great. And we also have on Wednesday afternoon at 5 o'clock, this young composer, pianist, Floris Bohr. He called us out of the blue and said he was obviously home not working, and he was working on some compositions, and he sent me a video, and he's a great pianist. So please watch that while you're waiting for your dinner on Wednesday at 5, because we're thinking if you like him, once we open up, I think we probably want to hire him, depending how much he is. So that's what's going on. I'm working on trying to do an interactive virtual film fans. It won't be this week. This week is Green Book. Next week, though, it will be, next Tuesday will be Sugarcane Alley. And so I'm going to try to figure out some tech way we can actually have a conversation about that. I know we're in now, month 3 of this, and we keep saying it, but I'm going to keep repeating it. Some of you are reporting that you're down, you're anxiety-ridden, it's upsetting. Please take advantage of the free counseling. If you really feel like you're not handling any of this well, and by the way, nobody is, please call a counselor. Once again, I know we've shown this before, but you can get free counseling, 1-800-327-4692. Just identify yourself as a 5-star resident. I think it's like 3 free sessions, and then if you need more, they can refer you to somebody within your insurance. Any of you who see Regina Minsky, she is also available privately, and you have her number. Now, the masks. This is how we wear a mask. Over your nose and over your mouth. I'm seeing way too many people not wearing the mask correctly. If you're not covering your nose and your mouth, you're not wearing it correctly. By the way, I am in the art room and it is really hot in here, and that's why I'm sweating. Normally it's cold in here. Please cover your mouth and your nose. The other thing that's going on is, I'm really glad to see that people are going outside, going for a walk, sitting, hanging out. But you've got to stay 6 feet apart. And what I'm noticing on the front patio is people are sitting not 6 feet apart, like this, or just taking the masks off. Please stop doing that. We want you well. We want to stay well, and we want to be able to get together safely as soon as we can. Please, 6 feet apart. We have been moving the chairs 6 feet apart, but people are moving them closer together. Please don't do that. Okay. Now, what's going on? Okay. Well, as of this morning, we have worldwide 9 million people have contracted COVID. Almost 500,000 have died. In New Jersey, we have 169,000 people have gotten COVID. Almost 13,000 have died. The U.S., 2.3 million with 122,000 dead. So this is serious. It is still serious. Things are opening up with a lot of restrictions. But that doesn't mean that we let our guard down. Where are the cases rising? And this is all per capita, by the way. California, Texas, Florida, Arizona, South Carolina, Alabama, Oklahoma, Georgia, North Carolina, Louisiana. These are all states that opened up early and have not forced mask wearing. They didn't shut down long enough, and that's where it's surging. And it's surging among young people who, based on the videos I've seen, are not listening. Now, we know that younger people are not dying from the disease at the rate that older people are. The problem is that they, in many cases, are carriers and they're asymptomatic. So your grandkids come over, I know you want to hug them, don't. They come to see you, stay 6 feet apart, make sure they're wearing a mask. And I'm not saying this like I'm, the teacher. I worry about all of you, and I don't want anybody to get sick, and I don't want to lose any more of you. So thanks. Okay. First, we're going to talk about, very briefly, because I know you've all seen it, the John Bolton book. Okay, most of you know I cannot stand John Bolton, all right? And I often think I'm the only person who remembers the 80s. John Bolton is a nut, and never should have been at the White House. He was involved with Iran-Contra. Nobody seems to mention that. But so he writes this book where he's claiming that the president asked the Chinese to help him win re-election, that it wasn't just the Ukraine, it wasn't just Russia. And I don't necessarily disbelieve him, but why didn't he come forward before now? Why didn't he take the subpoena from the House Democrats and tell the American public, especially when he has now said in the past few days that he believes that Trump is the most dangerous president ever. So you knew you'd get paid for a book, so you pretty much sold out the country for a paycheck. Now, I know we all want to read the book, and you should, but get it from the library. Don't give him any money, please. To me, he's worse than Trump. One of the interesting excerpts that I saw in the Times was when Bolton said, "There really isn't any guiding principle that I was able to discern in the White House other than what's good for Donald Trump's re-election. There's no coherent basis, no strategy, no philosophy. All decisions are made in a scattershot fashion, especially surrounding national security." This is nothing we haven't known. It is good to hear somebody else from the White House saying it, though, who was in the White House. Though, again, not my favorite person. This is dangerous. I mean, look at the botched job on COVID. God forbid we have some real national security emergency, and I mean an attack, a 9/11 or anything like that. These people are not prepared, and he has to go. I want to talk about this rally in Oklahoma. This is my favorite thing. Okay, I watched it. on one level, I'm glad I watched it. On the other hand, I can never get that time back in my life. But now it's all coming out. So, okay, so if you remember last week, they were all talking about this rally and that they had over 1 million people sign up. Okay, now they kept telling the campaign people, the actual strategists kept saying, don't say 1 million, you never want to give those kind of numbers out, but they were touting 1 million people signed up. Well, once they went through the information, they realized that 300,000 of those signups were fake. And then they narrowed it down. This is before the rally. They then narrowed it down that at most they had about 300,000 people who had signed up who were within driving distance. So the campaign's, the professionals' estimate was, according to them, the worst case scenario would have been 60,000 people. They got 6,200. So now they're blaming, and the president blamed, oh God, I can't stand calling him that. They blame protesters. There were no protesters. There were, but the protesters weren't blocking anybody. They claimed that they were not able to get into the arena. That was absolute nonsense. You all saw it if you watched it live. I watched it. There was nobody blocking anyone's entrance. There was nobody outside. If you wanted to go, you could have just walked in. 6,200 people. Then Saturday morning, and this is what I think actually drove the numbers down more than anything else, including the kids. We do know the kids were putting in for tickets to inflate the numbers, but 6 of the advanced people were tested positive. And now, I think that probably kept a lot of more people home than any other nonsense. Then the speech, I'm going to read you some of this because I was watching it, and I mean, he went on and on. I want to say he went on for well over an hour and a half. Much of it rambling, we're accustomed to, but it was supposed to be, the written speech he had was supposed to be sort of the beginning of the campaign against Joe Biden, and it was supposed to be an attack and the Trump case for re-election, but more so an attack on Joe Biden. Anything that they've attacked Vice President Biden on at this point isn't sticking, and the campaign people have privately conceded that if this election is a referendum on the current occupant of the White House, he loses. So they wanted to use this speech as a pivot to make it about Joe Biden, not the president's failure and failings. He did not do that. Now, he had attacks on Biden in there, but they were mixed in with all this rambling nonsense. So if you actually just watched it looking for some coherent message, that wasn't there. But it also, any attack on the vice president, the former vice president, got lost in this muddled disaster of a speech. So I'm just going to read for you. I will try not to inflect anything. I will just try to read it straight without laughing or making faces, though a few of you who have told me that they can tell when I don't like something, just even when I'm trying to read it straight by my face. So I'll try not to. Oh, by the way, thanks for the fashion advice, and you know who you are. Okay, I have to take my glasses with this. We begin our campaign, and I just want to thank all of you. You are warriors. I've been watching the fake news for weeks now, and everything is negative. Don't come, don't go, don't do anything. Today it was like, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. You are warriors. Thank you. We had some very bad people outside. We had some very bad people outside. They were doing bad things. But I appreciate it. We have just a tremendous group of people in Oklahoma. And I hear from your 2 great senators and your governor that we're doing very well in Oklahoma. That's the word. Okay, let's just start there. What bad people is he talking about? He's always using that phrase, bad people. What is he talking about? What bad people? Out where? And we're doing very well in Oklahoma. I'm assuming he means in the polls for himself, because he's basically a narcissistic mental patient. But Oklahoma's not doing well. Their COVID cases are rising. There's no new manufacturing jobs that he promised them. As we know, the price of oil has tanked, and that's a big moneymaker for Oklahoma. So who's doing well in Oklahoma? Him. Now, he then starts, and I'm not reading the whole thing, and I'm not even going through 90% of it, but these are the few things that I picked up. He talked about his revamp of the Veterans Administration, which what he took credit for isn't really true, but let's not worry about that. They got rid of a lot of bad people that were there for a long time. Sort of like me in Washington draining the swamp. I never knew it was so deep, but it's happening. It's happening. I never knew it was so deep. It's deep and thick and a lot of bad characters. That is playing right to the conspiracy theorists who, I know you've all seen the QAnon references. What the QAnon people, excuse me, believe, basically, is that there is a deep state that is conspiring to get Trump out of office, and that what he's been doing is attacking this deep state. Well, the only swamp I see is the one that he's created. I think this is quite possibly the most corrupt administration, person by person, in my lifetime, and that includes Nixon. Okay. Our incredible success in rebuilding America stands in stark contrast to the extremism and destruction and violence of the radical left. We just saw it outside. You saw these thugs that came along. These people, he's talking about the press, call them protesters. Oh, isn't it beautiful? It's so beautiful. No, they're so wonderful. They call them the Boston Tea Party. They're so wonderful. Yeah, they call them, you ever watch fake news? CNN, you ever watch? But how about Seattle? Isn't that great? So they take over a big chunk of a city called Seattle. I mean, we're not talking about some little place, we're talking about Seattle. Have you ever been to Seattle? They took over a big chunk, and the governor, who's radical left, all of these places I talk about are Democrat. You know that. Every one of them. Every one of them. And I'd have an offer out. I said, anytime you want, we'll come in, we'll straighten it out in 1 hour or less. Now, I may be wrong, but it's probably better for us to just watch that disaster. What kind of English is that? It doesn't even make any sense. And for a president of the United States to suggest that we're just going to let Seattle fall is insane. But Seattle's not in danger of falling, by the way. And I assume the governor and the mayor there will take care of it, since they had shootings in their autonomous zones. I read you their list of demands last week. That's not going to happen. Okay. The other thing that the current occupant of the White House does frequently is, and actually it's a Republican thing in general, I call them the imaginary people. They're always saying someone said or people said, and so you never actually know who that is, nor do they ever produce a person. But anyway, people have come up to me, say, how do you take it? I say, do I have a choice? Do I have a choice? We deal with a lot of bad people, but we're winning. And every once in a while, I'll have one of these days where I'm hit left and right, like even this great event. If you could have seen outside, or if you could have heard the reports, oh, it's COVID, it's this again. By the way, it's a disease without question, has more names than any disease in history. I can name Kung Flu. I can name 19 different versions of names. Kung Flu? I still don't even know what that means. Everything's about him. He's somehow being attacked. Well, every president is attacked. He then turned at one point he went on for a good 15 minutes about the West Point speech where, he grabbed the water and had to hold it with two hands. He claimed that was because he had been saluting each individual member of the class, and he said there were 600. I don't know if that's true. I'll take that as truth. I don't know. And he said so that was like a workout, and he also had on a silk tie, and he was concerned about spilling water on the tie, and his hand hurt from saluting. So that's why he had to use two hands to drink water. He also went on this long tirade about how he couldn't walk down the ramp, and I'm sure you've all seen that. And he said it was steel, and he had leather-bottom shoes on, and he didn't want anyone to see him get help from the general who was next to him. And he then said he couldn't fall because the fake news was watching, and he then said he ran the last 10 feet down. Well, we've all seen the video. He didn't do that. He then said we ought to come up with legislation that if you burn the American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. This always comes up with the Republicans. This is like throwing a bone to a dog. I don't know that really works anymore. And then he went on a rant about how no one's ever going to take a knee in front of the flag, the great American flag, or during the national anthem, and all this. It just went on and on in this back and forth way. And then Joe Biden and the Democrats want to prosecute Americans for going to church, but not for burning a church. Joe Biden goes to church. I don't even know what that means. They believe you can riot, vandalize, and destroy, but you cannot attend a peaceful pro-America rally. They want to punish your thought, but not their violent crimes. I literally have no idea what that means. Somebody 2 days ago said, "Sir, the elite are really working hard on trying to destroy you." I said, "Yeah, why do you call them the elite?" I said, "Why?" "Well, they're not elite. I look better than them, much more handsome. I got better hair than they do. I got nicer properties. I got nicer houses. I got nicer apartments. I got nicer everything. I ran for politics just once in my life, and I became president of the United States." Who said that to him? Who said the elite are trying to destroy you? No one. This is made up. It's another imaginary person. But watching that was, you remember the documentaries in the 1970s when the Maisleys did a lot, and I just lost the name in my head. It'll come to me. Where they just put the camera on without any commentary or questions, and they just showed you what was happening. This was like one of those documentaries following a mental patient. That's how I felt when I was watching that. And my jaw kept dropping, and I thought at the end, I've already said it, but number one, I can never get that time back. But I then thought, there's one thing this president will never have to worry about, and that is anyone plagiarizing his speeches. Ever. He'll never have to worry about that. Not a concern. Okay, now let's talk about the vice presidential sweeps. Next week I'm going to talk about the firings. Bill Barr. I'm sick of Bill Barr. I don't know what happened to him. I've now become totally convinced that whatever mental illness the current occupant of the White House, it's actually contagious, because everyone around him who you thought might be normal, they get around him for a little while, and they're nuts. And that would be Bill Barr. You know, I just realized I didn't check my teeth before I started this. I don't have anything in my teeth. All right, so who's going to be Joe Biden's vice presidential pick? I'll tell you who's being vetted. And you all know I've told you the truth. I want Kamala Harris. She's number one being vetted. She's been very visible lately, not just with Biden, but just in general. I showed her interview with Bakari Sellers last week about his book, The Vanishing Country, and I think I showed one thing with Liz Warren too. If not, I'll run something else. I'll run something with any of them, with all of them, so you can see, because she's just really smart. And anybody who can sit and talk to an author impromptu. She had no notes, she had no teleprompter. You know, she's just naturally really smart and educable on things that she doesn't know. As is Liz Warren, who seems to be the liberal favorite right now, the white liberal favorite. But I don't think that that Biden is going to pick her. And first, because the liberals and women, mostly white, who are promoting her are going to vote for Biden, and they don't have a problem with Kamala Harris. And she's from Massachusetts, so I'm not sure what she really brings to the table as far as electoral votes. He's going to win Massachusetts. Her base is liberal, but they're not radical. I don't like using radical for the Sandinistas, but they're not going to vote for Jill Stein or some other third-party candidate if Warren doesn't get the vice presidential nomination. So that's a secure base that he already has. So I'm just not sure what Liz Warren brings to the table for him, and where Kamala Harris brings an excitement factor because she is African American. She considers herself African American, though she is African American and half Indian. She identifies as African American, and we know that population's voter turnout needs to be high, and Joe Biden does enjoy the support of the African American community. Putting Harris on, or someone who is black, will help that, especially in some battleground states. Which brings us to Keisha Lance Bottoms, who's the mayor of Atlanta. She is currently being vetted. She has been interviewed, and they are running background checks on her. Now, the reason that she's sort of gone up in the running in the last weeks is because she supported Biden early, even when Cory Booker was still in and Kamala Harris was still in and Julian Castro. So there's a loyalty factor there, and I would suspect if she passes all the vetting, if she passes the vetting process and it's between her and Kamala, Biden might take her. Same with Val Demings. Val Demings was a police chief in Orlando. She's a congresswoman, and she is African American. She is a really good campaigner, and I wrote something here. Okay. She doesn't have a lot, I just read my writing. She doesn't have a lot of experience in front of a wider audience. So there is a potential for some flubs, and I don't know what the record is in Orlando when she was chief. If we see that there was a pattern of racist actions by the police while she was chief, even if she tried to stop it, even if she had nothing to do with it, that's not someone that can go on the ticket. The other one suddenly being talked about is Susan Rice. I really like Susan Rice, but I don't think that that's the best choice for vice president. She really has never campaigned for anything before. I think she would be a good Secretary of State, but we need somebody who can campaign. We need somebody who's going to be excited, and I don't think that we need to rerun the Obama campaign. Or, if you remember, she was the person who said originally about Benghazi, she had said it was a spontaneous demonstration. I think that we want to let the Benghazi thing just go. And I don't think we really want anybody involved with any of that on the ticket. It will just give them something else to talk about. So, I'm still supporting Kamala Harris. I think that's a good ticket, and she can campaign, she can hold her own. And if something were to happen to Joe Biden while he was in office, I have absolutely no reservations about Kamala Harris stepping in and being able to do the job of president. And that is the point. Whoever he picks, people have to be comfortable with that. And that's why I don't really think Stacey Abrams is that serious a contender right now. She's another one, though, that should be given a cabinet position or something, because I think she is a future candidate for us. But right now, I think that whoever is picked has to be someone that people are going to be comfortable with stepping in and taking over if something were to happen to Joe. Next week, I'm also going to talk about the Supreme Court. I guess they didn't get the court that they wanted. I was sort of surprised about the discrimination case, not allowing people to fire people based on their sexual preference or identity, particularly because Neil Gorsuch wrote it. So I'm going to go through some of the, unless something dramatic happens again this week that we have to spend time on, I want to go through the Supreme Court decisions that have been handed down at some length. Now, if there's something you want me to talk about that I'm not talking about, please call me and tell me. I like it, everyone does that. Call me and tell me. Keep the suggestions coming for me on programs. Whatever you're interested in, please let me know. Book club people, I will have. I'm so excited so many of you signed up for that. And I keep repeating it. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, wear your mask correctly. See you soon.